Ever catch yourself daydreaming at work about, what you'd actually do with all your time if money wasn't a thing?
Yeah.
Maybe you'd travel the world. Or finally, write that novel you always talk about. Or just, I don't know, sleep in past 7 a.m. and not feel bad about it.
Absolutely.
It's that whole time for money trade-off we kind of all make, but don't always think about too hard.
We do. It's like the default setting for life.
Totally. But what if there was a way to reset that default?
Oh, I like that.
Well, that's what we're diving into today with this book, Your Money or Your Life.
Okay.
And before you think, ugh, another personal finance book, this one's different. Trust me.
How so?
It's actually published back in '92, but it's considered a classic for a reason. It just gets right to the heart of work-life balance. Or I guess money-life balance is more accurate, really.
Yeah, and it comes from a really unique place, too. You've got Vicki Robin, who's all about social change and making a difference.
Right. And then you've got her co-author, Joe Dominguez. He was a Wall Street guy.
Who retired at
31. Not a typo, folks. 31. So he definitely walked the walk.
Exactly. That's why their combined experience is so powerful.
Totally. And that's what we're hoping to unpack today, the core ideas and how they apply to, well, everyone, even if early retirement isn't the goal.
Because it's about living intentionally, no matter what your financial goals are.
Okay, so let's just start with the title, Your Money or Your Life. Pretty bold, right?
It is. It makes you really think, am I sacrificing my life for money? And is it worth it?
Exactly. Big questions. And the book lays out this 9-step program to help you figure that out. We won't get through all 9 today, but we'll hit the ones that tend to be real eye-openers.
The ones that really make people stop and think.
Exactly. And one of those is actually the very first step, figuring out your lifetime earnings.
Okay.
Now, you might think, well, I kind of know how much I make. But the book has you add it all up, like every dollar you've ever earned.
And that can be surprising. For a lot of people, that number's way bigger than they thought. And then they start thinking about all the time and energy that went into making that money.
It's like you're not just looking at a number on a page anymore. It represents years of your life,
It's almost like you see all those years disappear for a second, and you're left wondering, what do I have to show for all that?
Oh, yeah. Which brings us to the next step, which is tracking your spending. And before you tune out, I know, it sounds super fun like watching paint dry, but it's important.
Yeah, it is.
The book really emphasizes writing down every single dollar you spend. Because most of us, especially these days, we're just spending without thinking.
It's so easy to swipe your card or tap your phone and not think about where the money's actually going.
Exactly. But when you pay attention, you start to notice these patterns, Like, wow, I spend how much on takeout coffee?
Or those impulse buys that seem small at the time but add up to a lot over time.
Yes. That awareness is where the magic happens. You're not an autopilot anymore. You're in control. Now, once you know where your money's going, the book takes this really interesting turn with step 3. It wants you to calculate your real hourly wage.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Right. Because it's not just your salary divided by how many hours you're at the office. It's about factoring in everything.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, sure. So taxes, your commute, anything you have to pay for work.
Childcare, that applies.
Or for sure if you have kids. Or even that latte that gets you going in the morning.
It all adds up.
It really does. And when you take your take-home pay and divide that by the real number of hours you're putting in, it can be kind of shocking.
Yeah, I bet.
People start to understand the real cost of their job, and not just in dollars, but in how much of their life they're giving up for it.
Makes you think.
Right. So imagine you've gone through all this, your lifetime earnings, you're tracking spending, you've got this realistic hourly wage. Then the book asks this big question. Is this how I want to be spending my time and energy?
Whoa.
Right.
Yeah.
And that takes us to the next step, which is aligning your spending with your values.
Which I think can sound a little vague, maybe even kind of woo-woo at first, but it's really practical when you get into it.
Totally. And it's not about deprivation, which is something people get wrong, I think.
Yeah.
It's not about going without.
It's about being mindful.
Yeah, like it's about asking yourself with each purchase, does this thing bring me joy? Does it actually line up with what's important to me in life?
Yeah.
It's like you're holding your spending habits up to this mirror that reflects your values.
I like that. And sometimes what we see in that mirror can be surprising, but it can also be like this really freeing experience because it lets us start making these better choices for ourselves.
Yeah. Choices that, actually line up with the stuff we care about.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, this isn't just some theory, your money or your life has really changed things for people, like from all walks of life.
Oh, for sure. I've seen it myself working with clients. Like, I had this one client, she was this high-powered executive, super successful, at least on paper,
Right.
but like deeply unhappy. She was stuck in this loop of working crazy hours to pay for this lifestyle that she didn't even really enjoy. You know, big house, fancy car, designer, everything.
Easy to see how that happens.
Oh, totally. But when she started using the ideas from this book, things changed. She realized she was spending a ton of money on stuff that didn't even matter that much to her. Like, none of it really connected with her actual values, which were more about like spending time with family and giving back to her community.
Okay, so what'd she do?
So she made a plan, downsized her house, simplified her wardrobe, the whole deal. And she started like choosing experiences instead of just buying more stuff. And here's the amazing part. Not only did she feel happier, more like herself, but she was also able to cut back on work a lot, which meant she could finally volunteer at this local charity, something she'd always wanted to do.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Talk about actions matching values, right?
Exactly. And it wasn't about like denying herself anything. It was about, creating a life that felt more authentic, more aligned with what really mattered to her.
I love that. It's so inspiring. And it really shows how this book isn't just about managing money. It's about like taking back your time and energy and using them to create a life you actually enjoy.
100%. It's about realizing that your energy, your life energy, that's a precious resource, and you have the power to choose how you use it.
And speaking of choosing how we spend our energy, let's talk about this idea from the book called The Crossover Point. This is where it gets like really interesting,
It does, yeah.
because it speaks to this desire we all have, I think, for freedom and flexibility.
Totally. And it goes back to Joe Dominguez, the co-author, the one who retired at 31. The crossover point was huge for him, and people still get a lot out of it today.
So, okay, for those who haven't heard of it, what is the crossover point exactly?
So picture this. You've got a graph, right?
Okay.
One line is all your monthly expenses, everything you need to pay for to live your life.
Rent, groceries, utilities, all that.
Exactly. The other line is your passive income, money you're earning without actively working for it.
Like, what would that be?
So rental income if you have property, or dividends from investments, even royalties from a book if you wrote one.
Right. Right.
The crossover point is where those two lines cross, where your passive income is equal to or even bigger than your expenses.
Wow. So you're covering your costs without needing a job, essentially.
Exactly. Now, that doesn't mean you have to quit your job, although some people do. It's more about the options it gives you.
Right. Like, you could work because you want to, not because you have to. That's got to feel amazing.
Oh, it's super empowering. And your money or your life lays out this whole roadmap for getting to that point. Mindful spending, saving consistently, investing smart for the long term.
Right.
It's not about going without or these get-rich-quick schemes. It's about making choices that line up with your values and what you actually want long term.
I love that because, again, it's bigger than just money, this book. It's about your values, taking control of your time, creating a life that really reflects what matters to you.
Exactly. Shifting your mindset from how much money can I make to how much do I actually need to live a good life? And what can I do with the time I have to, make a difference?
Such a good question. So as we're wrapping up this deep dive into your money or your life, we want to leave you with this thought. What would be possible if you reached your crossover point? What would you do with your time? What kind of impact would you have?
Take some time to really sit with those questions, because when you start lining up your actions with what you care about, when you make your life energy a priority, amazing things happen.
And remember, it's your money or your life. The choice is always up to you.